Have you ever noticed how we use the language of addiction to describe our romantic lives? We talk about crushing on someone, having a fixation, or feeling lovesick. It turns out that's not just poetic flair. There is a very literal, very biological reason why a breakup can feel like a physical injury, and why a new spark feels like a high that you never want to come down from. Today, we're peeling back the layers of the human brain to understand why we crave connection with the same intensity that we crave sugar, or even something much more potent.
It's a fascinating place to start because most of us like to think of our emotions as these ethereal, almost spiritual experiences. We want to believe love is a matter of the heart, but in reality, the brain is the one running the show. When you look at a brain scan of someone in the early stages of madly in love, the areas that light up are the exact same areas that activate when someone takes a hit of a powerful stimulant. We are talking about the primitive reward system, the circuitry designed to keep us focused on what we need to survive.
So, when we say love is a drug, we aren't just being dramatic. You're saying the brain actually processes a romantic interest as a biological reward, similar to how it reacts to a massive hit of dopamine from sugar, or even narcotics?
Precisely. The neurotransmitter dopamine is the primary driver here. It's often misunderstood as the pleasure chemical, but it's actually more about wanting than liking. It's the chemical of anticipation and motivation. When you're first falling for someone, your brain is flooded with dopamine, which creates that tunnel vision. You're energized, you're obsessive, and you're hyper-focused on that one person. They have become your primary source of reward. From an evolutionary standpoint, this was brilliant. It ensured that two humans stayed focused on each other long enough to bond and potentially raise offspring. But in the modern world, it can feel like your brain has been hijacked.
That explains that honeymoon phase energy, where you can stay up all night talking and somehow not feel tired the next day. But let's look at the flip side. If love is a high, then heartbreak must be the withdrawal. Why does it feel so devastating? I've heard people say that a bad breakup feels like their body is literally shutting down.
That is because biologically, it is a withdrawal. When that person is removed from your life, the supply of those feel-good chemicals, dopamine and oxytocin, is abruptly cut off. Your brain goes into a state of emergency. Functional MRI studies have shown that the areas of the brain that process physical pain, like a broken leg or a burn, are the same areas that activate during social rejection or heartbreak. Your brain isn't making a distinction between a physical wound and an emotional one. It's sending a signal that something is deeply wrong, which is why you might feel actual chest pain, lethargy, or a literal ache in your soul.
It's incredible that the brain uses the same hardware for a broken heart as it does for a broken bone. It makes you realize how much we underestimate the pain of a breakup. We tell people to just get over it, but you wouldn't tell someone with a third-degree burn to just shake it off. Now, you mentioned oxytocin earlier. We often hear it called the cuddle hormone. How does that differ from the dopamine rush?
Think of dopamine as the spark and oxytocin as the glue. While dopamine is about the chase and the excitement, oxytocin is about stability and trust. It's released through touch, eye contact, and even long conversations. It's what transitions a relationship from that frantic, obsessive stage into a deep, calm attachment. It lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, and makes us feel safe. Biologically, we are social animals. In the wild, isolation was a death sentence. So, our brains developed this system to reward us for staying connected. We are literally wired to find safety in each other's presence.
So, connection is a survival mechanism. But I wonder how this ancient wiring is holding up in the year 2024. We live in an era of intermittent reinforcement. Swipe-based dating apps, likes, and read receipts. It feels like we've taken this delicate biological system and plugged it into a high-speed digital slot machine.
You've hit on something crucial. The brain loves uncertainty. There's a concept in psychology called a variable ratio schedule of reinforcement. It's the same logic used in slot machines. You don't win every time, but the fact that you might win next time keeps you pulling the lever. Modern dating and social media exploit this. When someone texts you back inconsistently, your dopamine levels actually spike higher than if they were reliable. The uncertainty creates a craving. We become addicted to the maybe. This is why people stay in situationships or unhealthy cycles. The brain is chasing that unpredictable reward.
That's a bit terrifying to think about. We're essentially walking around with ancient hardware that was designed for small tribes, and now we're exposing it to an infinite digital marketplace of potential rewards. Does this constant stimulation lead to a kind of emotional burnout?
Absolutely. We are seeing a massive rise in what I'd call nervous system overload. When you're constantly scanning for validation or novelty, your stress levels stay elevated. High cortisol for long periods actually impairs your ability to form deep, oxytocin-based bonds. You become too wired to be intimate. If your nervous system doesn't feel safe, it can't switch into that restorative bonding mode. We're seeing a lot of people who are connected to thousands of people online but feel biologically isolated because they lack the physical, real-world presence that triggers true chemical bonding.
I've noticed that in my own life. The difference between a long text thread and just sitting in a room with a friend or a partner. There's a literal calming that happens in person that a screen just can't replicate. It's like our bodies are waiting for a signal that the digital world isn't sending.
Exactly. There are subtle cues, micro-expressions, pheromones, the rhythm of breathing that our brains use to calibrate our own emotional state. When you remove those, the brain has to work twice as hard to interpret the interaction, which is exhausting. It's why Zoom fatigue is real, and why digital relationships can feel so intense yet so fragile. We are trying to satisfy a biological hunger with digital calories. It's like eating candy when your body needs a full meal.
That's a powerful metaphor. So, if we're living in this high-stress, high-dopamine environment, what does that do to the health of our love? Can we actually protect our biology from this modern interference?
It requires intentionality. We have to realize that our relationships aren't just about feelings, they are part of our biological health, like diet or sleep. To foster healthy connection, we have to create environments where the nervous system can feel safe. That means putting the phones away, engaging in eye contact, and prioritizing physical presence. It also means being aware of our own addiction to drama or uncertainty. If you find yourself only attracted to people who are hot and cold, that's a sign your reward system is conditioned for the dopamine spike of the chase, rather than the oxytocin reward of the bond.
It's almost like we need to retrain our palates. If you're used to super-processed, high-sugar foods, a piece of fruit might taste bland at first. But once you detox, you start to appreciate the actual nutrition. I suppose love is the same way. We have to move away from the high and toward the sustenance.
That's a perfect way to put it, and we have to look at the role of stress. In modern life, we are often so burnt out by work, finances, and the news cycle that we have nothing left for our partners. We come home with our fight or flight system fully activated. You can't build a sanctuary of love on a foundation of chronic stress. We need to prioritize recovery, not just physical recovery, but emotional recovery.
It's fascinating how everything is linked. Your sleep affects your patience, your stress affects your libido, and your digital habits affect your ability to trust. It's one giant interconnected web. I'm curious, though, where do you see this going? As we move toward more AI interaction and even more immersive digital worlds, do you think our biology will eventually adapt? Or are we headed for a loneliness epidemic because our ancient brains simply won't accept a digital substitute?
Biology moves much slower than technology. It takes tens of thousands of years for the human nervous system to fundamentally change. We are still, at our core, the same creatures who sat around fires and relied on the tribe for warmth and protection. I don't think we can hack our way out of the need for real human touch and presence. If anything, I think we will see a return to the physical. People are starting to realize that the digital high is hollow. We're seeing a growing movement towards slow living and analog connection because people are biologically starving for it.
It's a bit of a wake-up call. We spend so much time optimizing our productivity or our fitness, but we rarely think about optimizing our attachment health. We treat love as something that just happens to us. But you're suggesting it's something we need to actively cultivate and protect from the noise of modern life.
Precisely. We need to be the guardians of our own chemistry. We need to recognize when our sugar-craving brain is taking the wheel and consciously steer back toward the things that actually nourish us. Real connection isn't always a fireworks show. Sometimes it's just the quiet, steady hum of feeling safe with another person. And in a world that is constantly trying to keep us overstimulated, that quiet safety is actually the ultimate luxury.
That really changes the perspective. It makes me think about the cost of our current lifestyle. If the price of our digital convenience is our ability to feel deeply connected and biologically regulated, is it really a bargain? We're trading the glue for the spark, and then wondering why things don't stay together.
And the long-term health implications are massive. Loneliness is now being cited as a health risk factor on par with smoking. Why? Because the lack of social bonding keeps the body in a state of low-level chronic stress. Without the buffer of oxytocin and social support, our immune systems are weaker, our hearts are more taxed, and our brains age faster. Loving and being loved is a biological necessity, not a luxury.
This has been such an eye-opening look at something we usually only see through the lens of romance novels or pop songs, to realize that it's all tied into our survival, our pain centers, and our very health. It makes you want to go home and just hold a conversation with someone you care about, with no screens in sight.
That might be the best thing you could do for your brain today. Just 20 minutes of focused, present connection can do more for your nervous system than a week of scrolling. We have to remember that we are biological beings living in a digital box. To be healthy, we have to step out of the box and back into the real world.
It's a perfect place to reflect. We've covered the highs of dopamine, the glue of oxytocin, and the very real withdrawal of heartbreak. It's clear that our brains are wired for connection in a way that is both beautiful and incredibly fragile. As we navigate this fast-paced world, perhaps the most radical thing we can do is slow down and honor those ancient biological needs.
I agree. The more we understand the why behind our cravings and our pains, the more power we have to make choices that actually lead to fulfillment. We don't have to be slaves to our chemistry, we can learn to work with it.
Thank you for walking us through the laboratory of the human heart today. It's given me, and I'm sure our listeners, a lot to think about. For everyone listening, maybe take a moment today to check in with your own nervous system. Are you chasing a digital sugar rush? Or are you building something that will actually sustain you?
It's a question worth asking every day. Our biology is waiting for us to give it what it actually needs.
We've explored how love is far more than just a feeling. It's a complex chemical symphony that dictates our health, our survival, and our happiness. From the addictive rush of dopamine that mirrors a sugar high to the deep, stabilizing power of oxytocin that keeps us grounded, our brains are constantly seeking the safety of the other. We've seen how modern technology exploits these ancient pathways, leaving us in a cycle of craving and exhaustion, and how heartbreak isn't just a metaphor, but a biological emergency. But perhaps the most important takeaway is that we aren't helpless. By understanding the chemistry of connection, we can begin to prioritize the real-world interactions that truly regulate our nervous systems. We can choose the sustenance over the high. As we move forward into an increasingly digital future, let's not forget the ancient social creatures we still are. Protect your peace, protect your connections, and remember that your brain is always looking for home in another person. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the science of the heart. We'll see you next time.